Imposter syndrome. So where should you be? Let's talk about that. Hello, wonderful people. Thunderhawk Coaching Will here. Today we're going to talk about Imposters Syndrome. So I'm going to start with a little definition of Imposter Syndrome. You feel like you've got to a position that you haven't really earned through some intentional or unintentional deceit, and at some point the penny will drop. Your boss will realise you are incompetent and you will lose your job. So where does that come from? I think that comes from something that I like to call incongruence. So I'm going to define that. Incongruence is where there are parts of you that don't line up, don't make sense, and that leads to a degree of dishonesty. Whether intended or unintended, whether you're lying to yourself or other people. And this lack of internal cohesion can lead to stacking up a few half-truths, potentially lies. It can lead to imposter syndrome very quickly, right? We all live in an economy where we have to earn money to go and pay for things. And for a lot of folks who are social climbers and want to do better than their parents, they push and they try. You know, a fantastic example of this is Jodie Foster's performance of Clarice in Silence of the Lambs, where in a way her character in the film, if you've seen it, is probably a pretty good definition of attempting to farm a bit of imposter syndrome out in the famous prison scene. So what is imposter syndrome? Where does it come from? So I think imposter syndrome comes from our understanding of ourselves and how that doesn't always shift with us, right? So we learn things logically, we develop our logical understanding, we build our skills, right? But we still have these fundamental beliefs. And when these fundamental beliefs don't align with the skill set and the experience that we have, that can lead to imposter syndrome. I'm thinking of clients I've worked with that are like senior devs, and they're like, how am I here? What am I doing here? I shouldn't be here. I'm not like good enough or skilled enough to be here. They're going to find out someday. And I think it comes from a couple angles. I think the first one I'm going to tackle is class here. So I think something I've certainly experienced myself when you come from a very lower class background, which is kind of where I've come from. In the UK, we call it the working class. We find it challenging when we get into more middle class environments to feel like we're at home, to feel like we can be as comfortable. I've certainly felt that anyway. And I think class is an element a lot of us don't think about when we think about imposter syndrome. But I definitely think it's kind of something that's certainly at play here when you're in environments where you know the people who are upper class and upper middle class are the ones who make the decisions in the world, right? So when we're in environments that feel like it's usually populated with a different sort of people, we can easily feel kind of like an imposter, like culturally, right? Because we haven't been given the same kind of like education about how the world should be and how we should be in that world in our upbringing, right? If you've come from like a poor little council house like myself growing up, you might not feel like you're at home in these fancy big offices, which I certainly felt when I worked in marketing, for instance, years ago. I felt a lot of imposter syndrome because that's not what my family did, and that wasn't the environment I came from, but other people felt a lot more comfortable in that and wanted to stay there because they've been raised with the similar kind of cultural heritage that's helped them feel more comfortable there. Imposter syndrome can also come from burnout. It can come from not treating yourself with value and respect. And by that I mean like a lot of our jobs require us to just go all the time, right? Especially if you live in the States, you guys don't get paid time off, but a lot of us on the European side do. And if you work a lot, you're eventually not going to be able to feel a lot, and eventually you're going to feel like an imposter because you're like burning out to the point where you're like, I don't even think I can keep this up. And then they're going to find out I'm not good enough, right? All of this can stem from a belief of like, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve this. And the historic belittling and smallness you felt can carry through into your professional life, right? And carry through into your relationships. I don't feel like I deserve this or that or that. And when we say we don't deserve these things, we kind of reinforce these beliefs in our head. And we don't really challenge and address these as directly as I feel we need to, right? Because I empathize with this because I've struggled with imposter syndrome historically, but imposter syndrome happens when we don't acknowledge who we are now and the skills we have because we were told we're not allowed things historically. We were pushed away, we were shunned, we were told we were less than others, and I think that really comes into like a power dynamic that plays out in a lot of our relationships. I think imposter syndrome comes out when we make adaptations in an attempt to navigate those power dynamics. And it can be really hard to feel like you belong in some of those environments because you might be really used to being one way or being another way with your buddies or in your like upbringing or whatever, and it just doesn't gel in the working world. But like, you want stability, you want like a good income, right? So you adapt to what the market wants or needs at the time. Recent history could say that could be computer science or AI or finance or economics or whatever. But where should you be is a question I'm going to throw at all of you wonderful people and elaborate on that a little bit. When I think about imposter syndrome, I always ask this question: where should you be, to my clients? And for me, when I think about that and reflect back and think, oh well, okay, where should I be? Realistically, I should either be unemployed or working in a store, like a retail store as a retail clerk, or a farmer or a cook, because that's the lineage in my family, right? If we think about it, like that's what we should be doing, quote unquote, if I were to go off tradition and lineage, right? But what I should be doing is a question we need to think about really importantly, because there can be a lot of conflicting elements that influence that answer. So educationally, I have a degree. So on that front, I should have kind of a middle class job, right? I should have a white collar job, maybe in the US, where you work in an office and you send emails and go to meetings and stuff. Or I have a degree in film and television, so maybe I should be on film sets and stuff, but also kind of a white collary, middle classy kind of job. So there can be a lot of conflicting elements with this, and I come back to this word kind of congruence that I used earlier, that if you aren't coherent in how you see yourself or don't accept that you can be a variety of things, right? So I'm a variety of things. In Life of Truck reference, I contain multitudes. So we need to like take that into account and absorb that into who we are. Like, how do we do that? We like journal about that. We feel that out, man. We talk about that. We explore those feelings, right? A lot of these labels I'm putting down are like logical in nature and kind of pull us away from like the fluid aspect of what we should. I use the word should. I don't like the word should. But as humans, we need to be emotional as well as logical. So imposter syndrome, in my opinion, comes out of just being absurdly logical, right? And taking it to the nth degree and not acknowledging the emotional aspects, because the emotion, in my opinion, forms the idea of self and how we feel about ourselves. If we don't nurture that emotional aspect, imposter syndrome can crop up when our performance is inconsistent because of life's ebbs and flows and challenges that we all face. So I think about ego a lot when I think about imposter syndrome, because there's a lot of I should be this, there's a lot of me, I, instead of, well, I want to give this. What can I do for you? What can be delivered and what will help the community, right? I think imposter syndrome can come from a lot of individualistic feelings and thinking, and I've certainly experienced that. But if you want to think about that a little more, you can work with myself, and we can do a comprehensive breakdown of like what imposter syndrome really is about for you individually, and deconstructing those beliefs into something that's useful and practical for you. That's kind of what like empathy coaching is sort of about, and something I offer. If you're here at this point in the video, if you want to inquire about further services with myself, please check the links in the description. But I want to provide value for you guys. I think you guys rock. Appreciate you. I'm going to finish the video here. Imposter syndrome. I've been Will. You've been wonderful. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.